Councillor Crisanti, if you could turn on your camera and do a sound check, please.
Yeah, I'm doing a sound check on behalf of Councillor Crisanti. He's going to join shortly. So this is the sound check.
Thank you. As soon as he comes, if you could turn on his camera for quorum, please.
Good morning, everyone. I know it's busy in here. Thank you for your patience. Everyone's got a seat. We should be ready to start in just a couple of minutes.
Good morning.
Good morning, Councillor Crisanti. We can hear you loud and clear. We're going to get going. Good morning, I'm Councillor Stephen Holliday. I'm the Chair of the Etobicoke York Community Council. We have quorum, and I'm now calling meeting 27 to order. Welcome, everyone. Today's meeting is being held by video conference and in person at the Etobicoke Civic Centre in the Council Chamber. The meeting is also being live streamed online at youtube.com/Toronto City Council Live. Although we may be meeting in different locations today, Community Council would like to acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. If you're registered to speak at today's meeting, please listen for me to call your name. I will call speakers in the order they appear on the list. The list of speakers can be viewed online by visiting the Etobicoke York Community Council page at toronto.ca/council and clicking the speakers box for today's meeting. Members, the City Clerk has provided all agenda materials on toronto.ca/council and on CMP, the Clerk's meeting portal. Clerk's IT staff are available to members if you need help with your devices. I also want to remind you to please submit and approve your motions by email. Staff are available at etcc@toronto.ca to help with motions. Are there any declarations of interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act? If you do have an interest, please indicate the item number and the nature of the interest. Seeing none, we will proceed. May I have a motion to confirm the minutes from our meeting on October 21st, 2025? Deputy Mayor Morley moves. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Thank you. We can go through the agenda items. Our first item is EY 27.116 Wilby Crescent Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application. We have a speaker on that item. Second item is EY 27.2 250 Wincott Drive and 4620 Eglinton Avenue West Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application. Decision report. We have speakers on that item. Our third item is EY 27.3 1 Westmount Park Road, request for fence exemption to the Toronto Municipal Code, Chapter 447. We have a speaker on that item. And members, I'm going to propose in a moment that we just reorder that to the top so that item can be disposed of. EY 27.4 Glen Scarlett Road, speed limit increase. Councillor Nunziata.
Yes, this was deferred from the last meeting, so I'll just move receipt.
Councillor Nunziata moves receipt. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. EY 27.5 Oakdale Road and Eddystone Avenue traffic control signals. That's Councillor Perutzis. We'll just hold that till he arrives. EY 27.6 Vision Zero Road Safety Plan speed limit reductions 30 kilometers an hour on local roads, public lanes, Etobicoke area, Ward 1, Ward 2, and Ward 3. May I have a member move that?
Happy to move the staff recommendations.
Deputy Mayor Morley moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. EY 27.7 3755 Bloor Street West, construction staging area time extension. Councillor Morley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is actually an exciting construction related to our new ECC that is underway. Just moving the staff recommendations on it.
Councillor Morley moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. EY 27.8 Weston Road and Kenhar Drive, traffic control signal. We'll hold that for Councillor Perruzza. EY 27.9 Harrow Drive, traffic calming, speed humps. Councillor Nunziata.
Okay, just a sec. On 9, yes, I'll move the staff recommendation.
Councillor Nunziata moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. EY 27.10 17th Street, traffic calming, speed humps. Deputy Mayor Morley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be moving the staff recommendations on this item.
Deputy Mayor Morley moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. EY 27.11 16th Street, traffic calming, speed humps. Deputy Mayor Morley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Similar to the 17th Street item, we'll be moving staff recommendations.
Deputy Mayor Morley moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. EY 27.12 1234 Weston Road, city-owned childcare center, traffic and parking regulation amendments. Councillor Nunziata. Yep.
Yeah, okay, I'll move the staff recommendation, but I just want to make a comment. This childcare center, we just did a reopening a couple weeks ago. It's the biggest daycare center in Toronto, 98 spaces. It's taken us a few years to build, but it's amazing, and these are all the parking regulations that have to be implemented with the opening of the daycare center. So I'll move the staff recommendation.
Councillor Nunziata moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. EY 27.13, Falstaff Avenue Parking and Traffic Amendments. Councillor Nunziata.
Yes, I'll move the staff recommendation as well, and unfortunately, this is the new St. Padella School that opened on Falstaff, and unfortunately, they moved the kids into the school before the construction was completed, and there was no traffic regulations or bylaws that were implemented in this new school. So I want to thank staff for bringing this forward, because it was chaos when the kids moved into a school that wasn't completed and construction still going on. So I'll move the staff recommendation.
Councillor Nunziata moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. EY 27.14, Larchmere Avenue Parking Amendments. That's for Councillor Perruzza, so I'm going to hold that. EY 27.15, Samba Drive Parking Amendments. I will also hold that for Councillor Perruzza. EY 2716, the Etobicoke Greenway Trail Project. Are there any questions of staff on this item? Seeing none, I'm quite happy to move the recommendations of my letter. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. EY 27.17, Assumption of Services Registered Plan 66M to, dash 2568, 50 Humberwood Boulevard, Humberwood Holding Corporation and Hullmark Developments Limited. We require a motion to add as new business. Councillor Crisanti.
Yes, I'll move that, Mr. Chair, and I'll also move staff recommendations. We could deal with that now.
Okay. Yeah, so the first vote is to move it to the agenda. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. I'll just check, are there any speakers in the item? There are not. Councillor Crisanti, did you want to move the item?
Yes, I do. I'll move the item, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Crisanti moves the item. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. And there's one more new item of business. That is EY 27, Vanhill Avenue Parking Restrictions. Councillor Perruzza, can I have a motion to add that as new business? So moved. It's now added as new business. Councillor Perruzza, did you want to leave this or deal with it right now? Did you want to leave it just to give people a chance to read it, or did you want to? I'm in your hands, Mr. Chair. Okay, we'll put it to the bottom of the agenda list. And if you're agreeable, we'll just clear out a couple of the items for Councillor Perruzza that we held. So EY 27.5, Oakdale Road and Eddystone Avenue traffic control signals. That's number 5. Councillor Perruzza, we held that. I'm happy to move that. Councillor Perruzza moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Same thing for EY 27.8, Weston Road and Kenhar Drive, a traffic control signal. Councillor Perruzza moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. And there's two more. So EY 27.14, Larchmere Avenue Parking Amendments. Councillor Perruzza. Number 14, Larchmere Avenue Parking Amendments. I just want to make sure that they say what I thought they were going to say.
He's got to put your mic on, Councillor.
We can hold it. I'm happy to move it, Mr. Chair. Okay, Councillor Perruzza moves EY 2714 Larchmere Avenue Parking Amendments. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. Got one more, EY 27.15 Samba Drive Parking Amendments.
One as well, Mr. Chair. I'm good with the staff recommendations there. Let's
Councillor Perruzza
happy to move them.
Councillor Perruzza moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. So members, we have two development items, 1 and 2. We also have an item of new business, which we can wait. And we also have EY 27. Forgive me here, I think it's number 3, which is a fence exemption. I just checked with the members. Did you want to hear from the fence exemption first so that that person can be on their way? We're okay with reordering that, so we'll bring EY 27.3, 1 Westmount Park Road, a request for fence exemption to the Toronto Municipal Code, Chapter 447, to the top of the agenda, and we will have that item now, and I do have a speaker. Heather McTaggart. Is Heather with us in the chamber? Welcome, Ms. McTaggart. You have 5 minutes to speak to Community Council. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Is this on? I have to press it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for having me here. I will not take 5 minutes. And first, I want to start with an apology that I'm here at all. We did not realize that we had to get an exemption because we were replacing an existing fence. The builder had strict instructions, and I have a note from him here to not make the fence any higher than the existing one. He swears that he did not do that because he used most of the old posts. We also thought that what the city considers to be our front edge, we consider that as our side edge because our door is on Westmount Park, but the city thinks that our frontage is on Royal York. And so our fence goes along Royal York, which we thought was our side, and therefore could be 2.5 meters. And that just wraps around a little bit, replacing an old fence that was taken down and moved. The main reason that we fixed the fence and extended a little bit around the corner is that we are directly across from a strip mall with the Metro and a gas station, which now has 24/7 alcohol. So it's very easy for somebody to sit in that parking lot and watch everything that's going on in our yard. And my husband is retired. He has a replacement ankle. He doesn't really want to be fending off burglars. And we feel that it's safer to have the fence. And also there's a lot of noise, as you can imagine, from Royal York at that area, and a light pollution. So we have done lots to make the fence look very pretty. It is more than 4 meters back from the sidewalk. It's actually 6 meters on Royal York. And it's also up on a hill. So you really don't see it if you're standing from the sidewalk because our yard goes up about 4 meters. I think that's all that I have to say, unless there's any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Councillor Nunziata, please.
So you just replaced the existing fence,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, and improved it, like made it a little more durable.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I had one question, actually 2 very quick ones. The first one was, if I recall, you have a lot of trees on your property.
Yes.
So this fence is significantly hidden by vegetation and trees, I think.
Yes, very much so, and will be more because we've planted a lot. So from the front, you're hard pressed to see it at all because there's a major fir tree and a huge maple on the corner.
And my second question, I think it's an easy one. You mentioned there's a gas station and a plaza across the street. Do I remember right, the driveway, the gas station points right towards your house. So do you get lights?
Oh yeah, yes we do. And our house is on an angle,
Yep.
So even if they're coming from the other way, it can come into the house. So that's why we kind of went around the corner to try to help stop some of that.
Okay. Thank you for speaking to us today. If there's no
Thank
further
you.
questions, that's it. Are there any other speakers? Seeing none, members wishing to speak, I've got a motion. I am prepared to move an alternate recommendation, which is to permit the fence. Madam Clerk, if you could post that. And just thank you to the applicant and to staff for your diligence on this particular item. As members can see from the report and the deputation today, there's a number of factors that go into this decision, including it's replacing the existing fence. I think if you look at the pictures, you'll see that it's beautifully built. And yes, there is absolutely a busy gas station across the street, and I think that this helps tremendously. So hopefully you can support that. Any questions of the mover on the amendment? Sorry, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, actually, I have one similar in my ward on Scarlett Road, where there was an existing fence, and it was built, and similar to that corner lot, and so I understand your concerns when you're on a major arterial road, and you think it's your backyard, and then it's not, and so I will support the exemption, and just the same, I have one coming in the next council meeting similar to that. Actually, the house looks identical, so thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nunziata. On the amendment, and I'm just checking, Madam Clerk, this is one motion, one vote. All right, all those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Thank you for, members, thank you for dealing with that item up front. We will go to the top of the list to EY 27.1. That item is held for a speaker, and that is 16 Wilby Crescent, a zoning bylaw amendment, a decision report. Our speaker is Alex Savanu from Bousfields. Is that you, Alex? Good morning. Welcome to the Etobicoke York Community Council. You've got 5 minutes.
Good morning. Thank you. Good morning, council members. My name is Alex Avenue. I am a senior associate and planner at Bousfields, an agent for the application. I won't take too much time today. I wanted to thank Councillor Nunziata, Ali Magani, and staff for their hard work on this file over the past year and a half. This proposal is a great opportunity to bring new housing and public realm improvements to an underutilized site that's currently used mainly for outdoor storage and located approximately 120 meters from the Weston and Up Express GO station. The proposal also supports the Weston Loop project, which is an initiative Councillor Nunziata and the community have been developing, which will connect parks throughout the Weston area via a multi-use trail. In this regard, the application proposes to convey a large portion of the site adjacent to the Humber River to the city. We've worked with staff, the councillor, and the community over the past year to address their concerns, leading to this approval report. I've read the staff report. We have no concerns with the proposed recommendations, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, thank you for joining us. I'll double check. Is there anyone else here to speak on item number 1? Seeing none, members, do there questions of staff? Seeing none, members wishing to speak? Councillor Nunziata.
Yeah, I'll speak on it quickly. As the deputy mentioned, we've been working on this for years. Wilby Crescent is a dead-end street, and that street was used for a dumping ground, and this particular site was used for dumping cars that were in car accidents, just dumping. We had some of the businesses actually repair their cars on the road. A few years ago, we approved a development application at the bottom of Wilby Crescent where the Humber River is for options for homes. So residents have moved into that building, and unfortunately, they had to live with all these dumping grounds and cars and businesses operating their repairing their cars on the road. So it's a real disaster, that street. And when the applicant came forward, the residents in there were relieved to clean up the street. And we've had to have city staff out there numerous times, parking enforcement. And so hopefully with this development, we'll be able to clean it up. And there's, as was mentioned, it's part of the Weston Loop, which is our master plan, and it's actually going to Infrastructure Committee next week, which I'll speak to Councillor Morley about. It's a project that we've been working on, the committee has been working on, connections on trail. Just north of that, we have the Weston Lions Park, where we have the soccer field, the baseball diamonds. So I'm very supportive of this application, because there are certain parts of my ward that needs to be cleaned up, and this is one street that was in, we had to do it, and the complaints we were getting from the community, every day, and residents that live at Options for Homes, there was no sidewalks, believe it or not, even though they moved into the building. So I'm relieved to see that I was told by staff the sidewalks are being put into this week. Hopefully it happens, rather than have the residents walk in the middle of the road with all these cars parked and doing repairs on the road. So, and we did have a community meeting. I've worked with my community, and they're in full support of it, and that's why you don't see any residents here, because they're in full support on the revitalization of Weston, and hopefully the Weston Loop project would be approved at to Infrastructure Committee next week. And thank you for the deputant. And I'll move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Nunziata. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none, Councillor Nunziata moves the staff recommendations. All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. Thank you. Our next item is EY 27.2, 250 Wincott Drive and 4620 Eglinton Avenue West, zoning bylaw amendment application decision report. We have speakers on this item. Our first speaker is Louisa Gerardo from the Richmond Garden Residents Association. Welcome back to Community Council, Ms. Gerardo. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning. Louisa Gerardo here from the Richmond Gardens Residents and Ratepayers Association, wanting to talk about Richview Plaza, which is the only walkable retail in the neighborhood and a retail destination for thousands of residents in wards 1, 2, and 3. For 3 years, the community worked with councillors and the developer and the city to come to the 2021 council-approved plan. It was a complete community, one integrated independent site. It had increased density, affordable housing, protected retail and services, great plan. With that, CreateTO transferred lands in a sole source agreement, not a competitive bid, and there was a development condition that there would not be an OLT appeal. 4 years later, not one unit is built. 4 years spent on 6 C of A applications over 7 trips, OLT and rezoning. That pretty much dismantles this integrated, complete community. It's a piecemeal development. We are very concerned about this. Retail is at risk. And importantly, it's going above and beyond all of the adjacent developments. We need your help, and we want to bring some clarity to this stage. The headlines for the whole site, because I know we're here for A and B, but you can't look at an integrated development myopically. Let's go broad first. 2021 to 25, we're looking right now at doubling and tripling the stories. We're looking at 80% more units, but 39% less parking in absolute numbers. We're looking at slashed retail and insisting on a private road. Okay, so let's break that down. We want you, please, to reject this because we need a whole, complete community, and we're willing to collaborate on that. But we've been kind of locked out of conversation since 2021. Let's go into retail for a second. For retail to survive, you need retail GFA, you need parking, you need loading, and you need access and circulation. In the bylaw, we have a minimum of 80K and a max of 123K of square footage in GFA, so 80 to 123. And then there would have been a grocery store at 37K. Great. We are now being proposed at coming in 15,000 square feet less than the bylaw minimum, slashed. And A and B went from about 14,000 square feet to 5, when in fact, to meet the bylaw minimum, we need to bring A and B up to 20 if we want to meet the bylaw minimum, because so much has been cut through Building C. There was a lawyer letter that I barely had a chance to look at this morning that said the community is sort of perhaps misleading on retail, and they are confirming that there's 6,000 square meters of retail. If we do the math, that means we're 10 to 15,000 square feet less than the bylaw. Let's do the math. And then to support that, parking was slashed from 411 spaces for retail and visitor to 56 for retail and 59 for visitor. And overflow for visitor parking is meant to go into the plaza, when the plaza has half of what I can routinely count there between 10 and 11 non-peak time any day. As an aside, the residential parking that's coming up on this is also precedent setting and worrying. Adjacent rentals that have been built long ago, I acknowledge that, are running 1.09 to 1.39 per unit. The new buildings, Plant World is going up right now. It's still being constructed. Whitcomb Hill is not going up just yet. So these are legit adjacent new buildings, are running 0.8 to 0.9, and Trinity's coming in at 0.5. I get the bylaw, but these other developers are crazy and want to spend money they don't have to, or Trinity's pushing it. They're just pushing it. So let's go to the public road. Private road is supposed to be a default, and it was marginally acceptable in 2021, despite the fact that it was required for public access to the plaza. because we thought it's one owner, it's trustworthy, it's efficient, it'll be fine. But now we got 2 to 4 lots, multiple owners, 80% more units, Uber car deliveries, and we went from 490 to 832 bicycle parking with, I don't think, any bike lanes because it's a private road. How does this work? Heights and density, there are no tall buildings along Eglinton that directly abut single-story, low-density, low-rise neighborhoods. You know, you're going to look at these zoning maps and say, oh, there's apartments. There's, never you mind, we have 24 to 29 towards Scarlett, but they abut other apartment buildings, they abut parks, they abut churches and church parking lots. We're asking you please to reject this. Let's go back to a conversation and collaborate.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the speaker? I have to let you know that we're not permitted to applaud in the chamber. I just ask that you respect that rule going forward. Thank you. May I ask? You can clap your hands around like that. Okay? Thank you, Councillor Perruzza. Yeah. I will ask a brief question, if that's okay. I just wanted to know, to the extent at which this has perforated through the neighborhood. I seem to recall some signs on the lawns. Mr. Otto, you're part of the Residents Association. I mean, could you just tell us how people feel about this?
Yeah. Well, it's sad, and there's another speaker who will speak to the Save Richview Plaza petition. So I don't want to repeat what I think she's going to cover off, but what I will say, I just joined the Residents Association about 1.5 years ago, and I have such tremendous respect for the collaboration that was exhibited leading up to 2021, and the fact that there has not been collaboration, and the fact that we only met once with the developer because C of A said to, it doesn't work. And I would say that they rallied then to save the plaza and accessibility to the plaza, because without it, we don't have a complete community, and we actually need to go somewhere for what we were not going to get if we slash what we slash. It's, you know, these people worked really hard for something that was intelligent. Is there room to collaborate and negotiate? Yeah, I think so. I do think so, but not to the nth degree that they want to go.
Thank you for speaking.
Can I also add, they're upset. The petition and the rallying of the neighborhood is about certainly the precedent setting that's going on, and the fact that there are opportunities to work on heights through MTSA. There's just so much that is premature on this, that is circumventing process, and there's a lot of cherry picking going on, because we don't want to respect the 2021 parking bylaw, but we do want to keep the 2021 presumed private road. So, like, how does that work? Because this was approved before parking bylaws changed in Toronto. So how do you get the new parking bylaw but the old? Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's cherry picking, it's offensive, and somehow every other developer that's building right now is not proposing that. They're crazy, or this is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you for speaking to us. Our next speaker is Eileen Costello from Aird and Burles. Welcome to the Etobicoke York Community Council.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Councillor and members of Community Council. My name is Eileen Costello. I'm a solicitor at Aird Burles, and we're here on behalf of the applicant and the owner of the property, Montran Richview GP, which is a mouthful. That client is a subsidiary of the company Trinity, which was established in 1991. And I think it's important to understand Trinity's track record because they're not crazy and they are established builders. Since its founding in 1991, Trinity has brought more than 32 million square feet of retail, residential, and mixed-use developments to communities across this country. And unlike other developers, Trinity remains actively involved in its projects. It retains ownership from planning and construction through to the ongoing management of its facilities. And a number of those facilities are significant retail plazas, which are known across the country, including, for example, Lansdowne Park in Ottawa, which many folks know about. And that's important when we're talking about the asset that this community values, which we understand, which is the Richview Plaza. I wanted to address just a few comments. You're going to hear from Mr. Ryan Doherty, who's our client's land use planning consultant, on the specifics of the rezoning that's before you. But I wanted to just address some themes that we heard from the first speaker. I also want to say my lawyer's letter, which I understand wasn't before everyone yesterday, doesn't suggest the community is misleading you. I don't think they're misleading you at all. I think there's a different approach and a different view to some of these matters, which can be quite complex. The first thing I'd like to point to is that this isn't a dividing up of the property. I've heard reference to 3 or 4 blocks or 3 or 4 units. There's one consent application which is being considered. That consent application was necessary to advance Building C. Building C is a building that is purpose-built rental and will include 74 affordable housing units. And our client is advancing that now in order to secure financing and funding through federal housing projects. So this isn't a dividing up into 4 blocks. The second thing I wanted to address was what's changed since 2021 and what hasn't. The public park hasn't changed. The POPs hasn't changed. The POPs in front of the retail plaza hasn't changed. The landscaping improvements haven't changed. The private road network hasn't changed. It's a fair question to ask. If you're changing some things, why aren't you changing the others? The reason is because your city staff and our transportation consultants continue to agree that the private road works. The private road works for a couple of reasons. One is that it's being designed to a public standard. Mr. Doherty will take you through some of those diagrams in a moment. It will look like, it will function, it will be maintained as a public road network. From a transportation volume perspective, it continues to work. Your staff report confirms that. Why it's private is because it's encumbered. It's encumbered by easements that benefit the adjacent long-term care seniors facility, and it is encumbered by stormwater management facilities underneath. Is this unique in the City of Toronto? No. There are many projects which were approved by the city. Bloor and Dufferin is one example. The Mr. Christie site in Councillor Morley's ward is another, where because of large integrated underground parking structures, the city has accepted a combination of public and private or entirely private road networks. Your staff report supports it. The technical analysis supports it. I want to talk about the existing plaza. Yes, the overall size of retail offerings on this site has been reduced since 2021. If anyone has looked at what's happened to retail and office uses in the City of Toronto since COVID, they will understand why. There is no market for a grocery store at this site. That's the reality. What is there a market for, and I'd appreciate if I could be given the same courtesy that I gave the first speaker. What there is a market for is well-designed, well-delivered community retail, and that's what Trinity has experience delivering. Trinity currently manages more than 2 million square feet of retail commercial across the country. It manages the property, and it works with the long-term leaseholders. The retail plaza is going nowhere. It's not the subject of the rezoning application, and Trinity continues to show that plaza and the improvements in all of its plans. I want to speak very quickly about housing. There was a suggestion that there isn't compliance with the growing up guidelines. In fact, the proposal before you exceeds them. More than 16% of the units will be 2-bedroom, more than 10% will be 3-bedroom, and that increases to as much as 26% and 11% for the second building. These are large, by the market standard, and appropriately family-sized units. We also need to acknowledge, and I have 2 seconds left to do it, that the total affordable housing component on this site will also increase. So we're grateful for the staff recommendation, and we commend that to you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that committee may have. Thank you.
Are there questions of the speaker? Councillor Nunziata?
It's so perfect, there shouldn't be any questions.
So
Can I wave my hands?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
You just mentioned there's no market for a grocery store. So why?
Our client has continued to explore that viability, and it has not come forward, Councillor. That's just the reality.
So where's the closest grocery store?
I believe the closest grocery store is about 10 minutes to the west. I don't live in this neighborhood. I live in High Park.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Or the 10-minute bike ride. No.
Deputy Mayor Morley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the submission today. I'm curious about the piece and glad to hear that you acknowledge the value of the plaza to the local community. I know sometimes it's frustrating, and we've gone through some of these exercises with understanding the local need for grocery, for example, but when the market is not responding, there's sort of a lack of alignment with the local needs versus the market. So that's something we do need to take into consideration. Just on the parking piece, it will be no secret that I have been supportive of the city's move to reduce parking minimums. But on the issue of commercial and retail, we know there are a disproportionate number of seniors in Etobicoke Centre. Sorry, my mic's a little bit loud today. And the reduction of the number of parking spaces, in my experience in this plaza, it's typically quite full. It's well used, quite a well-used parking lot. And there's a dramatic reduction in those parking spaces. Can you talk to us about the rationale behind that and how you see that working?
Sure. The existing plaza, as you know, has both the large building at the rear and then it's got pads at the front. Those pads are being removed. And so the parking directly associated with those pads are going to be incorporated into the total parking facility on the site. So you've also got a change in the setup of the plaza and those needs. What's important, and Mr. Doherty will take you through it, is when you see the site plan, the dedicated parking that's immediately in front of the rear building, Building D, which is staying, remains. It remains to service those, and it's been designed in a way that it is quite separate from the mixed-use residential that's happening and fronting onto Eglinton. And I'm sure Mr. Doherty can walk you through that. And I'll say that the new parking standard, and again, I appreciate that from a resident, you're changing one thing and you're not changing the other. We're implementing the city's new comprehensive parking bylaw. That's what we're doing, and there's an updated parking study, which again, your city staff have reviewed and have accepted. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a couple of questions. My first question was about the parking. So did I hear correctly, there's dedicated parking for the plaza?
When you see the site plan, sir, you'll see that the way in which the parking has been laid out, I apologize, Councillor. I should have said Councillor.
It's fine.
You'll see that it's been purposefully designed so that the parking which is in front of that plaza building clearly services that plaza. The other component that's important to note about the parking is that with the input of the leaseholders, there's also a proposal for a temporary POPs to enhance the area in front of the parking so that when there are community facilities, when the plaza wants to do an event, that area can then be turned into a public gathering space. So that's another component of what's being done in front of the plaza, Councillor.
Is any of the plaza parking shared with any of the other parts of the development site?
It's physically shared. You can walk across if you wanted to. There's no barrier.
Do visitors to the buildings park in the plaza parking?
I'm sure they could if they wanted to park there and then walk back. I don't know why they would, since the visitor parking is being provided in accordance with the city's parking rates.
And is that a feature of the design?
Which, Councillor?
Is there an intentional feature to share parking between the plaza and any of the residential uses?
The proposal is for a mixed-use development, and so the intention is the public realm, the POP space, the use of the private road, all of that is shared by the users of the entire site.
I see. So that, and that's why the plaza area and the parking was incorporated into the density calculations for some of the site. Is that right?
You can ask that question of staff who did the density calculation, Councillor, but you don't incorporate parking per se. What you do is typical with the City of Toronto. You take the total site area and then you net out certain things which are public dedication. In this example, the private road wouldn't be netted out because it's not being conveyed. But it's not about including or not including parking areas in a net calculation, based on my experience.
I just mean areas. Okay. Could you just tell us about the encumbrance? Could you explain a little bit more about what you meant by the encumbrance on the private road?
Sure. I believe that's already been addressed in the report that staff prepared for council, but one of the encumbrances that I'm personally aware of is the private access easement in favor of the property immediately adjacent on Eglinton Avenue, which is the long-term care and seniors facility, across the plaza, because at the time of that approval, which I actually worked on, city staff didn't want to have a separate access onto Eglinton. Right. So that's an example of where there's a private encumbrance, and I believe transfer station staff have addressed that in their report to you.
No, I just want to understand this. So that encumbrance was there so that the people that go to the seniors' home, would have the right to use the driveway to get into the senior's home, right? It's a
That's
shared
correct.
driveway. So if it was a public road, why would anyone need an easement?
You would actually need to have that easement formally lifted and have them agree to that.
Okay, and then,
But that easement, if I could just finish, Councillor, is being provided just as the public access easement that is being secured in favor of the city will occur across the entire plaza.
and then you said there was something else, there was a technical encumbrance.
There's a stormwater management facility and other facilities which run under that existing site, and that's also addressed in the city staff report.
So do I remember correctly, the stormwater management facility serves 2 catch basins that are on the driveway?
I'm not sure the technicalities of what it serves. I'm not a stormwater engineer. I know from a legal perspective that's an encumbrance and that the city's municipal code does not allow the city to take land that have those encumbrances.
Do you know if the encumbrance serves the actual element itself?
I don't.
You don't, okay. All right, well, thank you very much for answering my questions.
I appreciate the questions, Councillor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Ryan Doherty from Bousfields.
Good morning.
Welcome, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. I do have a presentation. Would staff be able to help me share that on screen, please?
Someone's coming.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Just get that up here. Okay. I do, yeah. Sorry. Maybe we can. There we go. Hopefully this works. Okay, there we go. I'll just change the view. Full screen mode, okay. Sorry for the delay.
You all set?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So, good morning. My name is Ryan Doherty. I'm a land use planner with Bousfields, an agent to this application. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to this matter. I'm going to give a very brief overview of the site and the proposal, and then I'd be happy to answer any questions. So this site is occupied by the Richview Plaza, as we all know, and vacant lands fronting Eglinton. This site is located within 350 meters of the future Kipling-Eglinton station along the Eglinton Crosstown extension. The site's also within walking distance of the future Islington station. So as such, the site is located along an under construction higher order transit corridor. There are policy directions, both at the provincial and municipal levels, which promote the integration of land use planning and transit. This development would provide a significant amount of new housing, including significant affordable housing within immediate proximity to multi-billion-dollar public investments in transit. In terms of the official plan, the site is designated mixed-use areas and is located along an avenue. There is strong policy direction for growth in these areas. There is also specific policy direction in the official plan, including through the updated avenues policies, which permit greater levels of intensification beyond mid-rise along the avenues for sites within 500 to 800 meters of existing or planned higher order transit. This is a site plan. The site was rezoned in 2021. The approval allowed for 3 new buildings, in addition to the retention of Richview Plaza. The approved heights were 11 and 11 stories and 43 meters for Building C with no story limit. The approval secured a public park, a POPS, a community agency space. It was to be served by an L-shaped private road, and 54 affordable rental units were secured. The application before you today seeks to rezone the area outlined in red. Of note, the new application maintains the foundational pieces of the previous approval, being the number and location of the proposed buildings, the location of the road, and the size and location of the park, POPs, and community agency space. The majority of the Richview Plaza, which is shown as Building D, will continue to remain and will be served by 154 surface parking spaces in the final condition. Within the same site organization, the application would provide increased heights of 24 and 29 stories for buildings A and B. The site is unique from other avenue sites in that it is over 3 hectares in size, and has a full depth of up to 200 meters. This is significant space and separation distance to site tall buildings that also provide appropriate built form transition to surrounding neighborhoods. Part of that transition is achieved through the retention of the plaza. With the increased heights, the overall development has a net density of 2.54 FSI. As a professional planner with a range of citywide experience, this is a modest level of density, particularly given the site's proximity to planned transit. For reference, the city's latest policies, established in Chapter 8 of the official plan for major transit station areas, speak to densities of up to 6 FSI for sites within 200 to 500 meters of a transit station. This application is nowhere near that level of intensification. In terms of housing, the application would propose to increase the unit count from 587 to 1,060. By way of the increase, the applicant is increasing the amount of affordable housing from 54 to 101 units. It is intended that the bulk of those units, 74, be provided within Building C, which is the first and separate phase of development. And this plan illustrates the community and open space elements that are proposed to remain. So you have the park, the POPs, the community agency space, in addition to the flexible POP space in yellow, which is sited in front of the plaza and is meant to provide a space for the use of the community and businesses of the plaza. And finally, I want to take a moment to address the planned road network. I'm going to show a sample cross-section. So while the pavement width for cars is planned to be 8.5 meters, the full width of the right-of-way, including sidewalks, landscaping, and so on, ranges from 21 to 22 meters throughout the site. It's designed akin to a major local road under the city's DIP standard. The applicant will be required to create the necessary easements to allow for vehicle and pedestrian access on the road as well as throughout the site. And in short, the road has been designed to look, function, and feel as a public road. I want to be clear that this is not a lane or a condo road. So in summary, we think this is a good application. We think it supports the broad public interest. We think it meets the provincial and municipal planning policies and will result in a complete community. We are in support of the staff recommendations, and I want to thank staff for their time and efforts over the past 3 years of this rezoning to bring this recommendation report forward. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the speaker? Councillor Nunziata.
So you mentioned you went from 54 affordable or to 101?
54 affordable units, it's now at 101.
101. So as far as the affordable units, have you applied to CMHC or for the affordable units? Because I do know other developers want to put shovel in the ground and they're having difficulty in receiving CMHC funding or any funding for affordable housing.
I know the applicant has requested funding through the recent federal government program for some of these rental units. I can't speak to whether that's exactly CMHC funding.
Affordable is a bad word. It's not the real word, right? It's some subsidized units for 20 years. It's not really affordable. Right?
Anthony, okay, I'm just asking.
You get always caught up in this conversation that goes nowhere, right?
Okay.
There's no affordable.
Councillor Nunziata, could you continue?
I thought I had the floor.
Sorry, it was an aside.
Don't
sorry.
I have the floor? There, shut your mic. Asking the question because there are a number of developments happening, and I can speak in my ward where actually they're ready to put shovel in the ground and they're having difficulty in receiving the funding from the federal government or the province. So you don't know where it's at this time. You're anticipating you're going to put 101 affordable housing units, correct?
Not anticipating, that is what will actually be delivered.
That's a fact?
Yes, and the applicant has agreed to deliver 74 of those in Building C, which is the first phase. And it's my understanding that that phase does have federal government funding tied to it.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Morley.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks for the submission. We heard from some of the deputants as well from the community about the sort of the lack of collaborative process or community engagement opportunities post 2021. Obviously, we've had a very dramatic change in the legislative environment for planning, largely facilitated from the provincial government. I wonder if you could just speak to what efforts have been made in the last number of years, the last 3 years. You mentioned you've been working with planning staff to engage and bring the community into the conversation and along the journey. Well, he'll respond and we can go from there. Go ahead.
Yes, I can answer that. And so, you know, just as a background, there was a lot of meetings through the first rezoning process. To more directly answer your question, since 2021, there was the community CCM, and there has been a handful of meetings with the community members. I've attended 2. So there has not been as much as the first rezoning process that is acknowledged. And ultimately, there's a fundamental disagreement about what is believed to be appropriate for this site.
I'll leave it there. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a couple of questions. What were the 2 meetings with community members since 2021?
There was a meeting between Trinity and the residents group discussing the rezoning application. I believe it was an in-person meeting. And then there was a recent meeting for one of the minor variance applications related to parking in Building C. That was held earlier this year.
Who was at that meeting?
I was at that meeting. Our transportation consultant was at that meeting. Trinity was at that meeting, and there were members of the RRGA as well.
Okay, so they talked about parking, and then when was the meeting before that?
I don't have the exact date, Councillor.
Was it in recent years?
It was after the community consultation meeting.
Okay.
Which was, I
That was
believe, in
2023.
September 2023.
Okay,
Yes.
I just want to ask you about the affordable housing. So I think you said 74 of the 103
100,
units?
101.
74 of the 101 units are in Building C,
Correct.
and that's not before us today.
That's correct.
So the balance, 26, is what you're talking about, and that is spread over how many buildings and how many units?
There's 24 within Building A.
Building A.
And what I would also just mention is the previous rezoning only secured 54 affordable units. So we've gone from 54 to 101. And that's tied to the increase in units on the site.
Right, and federal funding, is it not?
Yes.
Right. Okay, so Building A has 20, you said 24 units?
Correct.
So is that 2 units left for Building B? Where did they go?
No, 24 and 74. Sorry. Getting my math wrong. But
It's fine,
It's 101 overall.
conceptually. Okay. And so that is do we know the tenures of Building A and B?
Building A is currently planned to be rental, and
Okay.
Building B is planned to be condominium. That may change in the future.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, one last question. Underneath the publicly accessible road, what's under that?
The parking garages for Building C, as well as the shared garage for Buildings A and B.
The buildings A and B.
Correct.
And what of the future of the plaza? Is that going to be severed off and treated as its own parcel, or does that remain as part of A and B?
It will likely be severed off in the future, but Trinity intends to continue to own and operate the plaza.
And what about the road then? Does that get severed down the middle? How does that work?
The road would not be included within the plaza, but through a consent application, you would have to establish easements to allow for access to continue to be provided to the plaza.
So the roads will stay with the respective residential developments.
Correct. Just by way of its positioning on the site.
Other than an easement, how do you get in and out of the plaza?
There's access easements on the road that would allow you to drive on the road or walk on the sidewalk out to Wincott or out to Eglinton.
So if you have to dig up the road to service the parking garage, what do you do? Close the plaza?
Well, there are other accesses to the plaza. There's also the driveway off Whitacombe Hill. There's the other driveway off Wincott. It's the same as if you would need to close a public road for maintenance.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Folks, yeah, if we could just ask not to, we appreciate this is really important, but we just have to respect the process here. Our next speaker is Robert Beulah. I believe Mr. Beulah is on video. Oh, no. Welcome, Mr. Bewley. You have 5 minutes. Please begin.
Good morning, councillors. My name is Bob Beulah. I live at 187 Wincott. I'm here to ask Etobicoke York Council to reject the zoning application at 250 Wincott and 4620 Weston, Eglinton. Trinity has never provided any indication of their plan to build the agreed upon 2021 development. Trinity used a series of minor variances to totally revise the agreement. The planning report states that they're not seeking changes to buildings C and D beyond what's in place. However, buildings C and D are going to the OLT on December 10th. The planning report states 130 units were swept from buildings A and B to C, which doesn't increase the site-wide number of units. The Committee of Adjustment on November 23 questioned Trinity about this repeatedly. Finally, Trinity admitted that buildings A and B would be rezoned to make up for this. Watch the YouTube from 220 to 317. I believe the committee wouldn't have approved the variance request that increased the total number of site units, blatantly violating the purchase agreement and bylaw 834/2021, the zoning bylaw for this site, as this is beyond the scope of a committee of adjustment. Trinity admitted this required a rezoning to increase the units in A and B. Trinity added units to all 3 buildings, while they claimed at the Committee of Adjustment that the number of units on the site would not increase. Now, the justification for the height increases. In January 2025, City of Toronto promoted 12-floor mid-rises on avenues. There were public open houses and a policy review document which is attached. OPA 778 on page 6 of the planning report states the heights on avenues should be mid-rise or may go beyond mid-rise within 500 to 800 meters of a transit station, with the greatest height at the transit station. Richview Plaza is not at a transit station. It's next to a low-rise residential community in a suburb. What is go beyond? Not 29 floors. The community must use Trinity's private road to access the plaza. It'll be built over parking garages and owned by 3 separate owners. It'll be a disaster when future maintenance is required. Toronto's private roads are governed by DIPS policy attached. Standard 2 of DIPS, the length of the street, maximum 45 meters from the curb of the existing public street, full stop. They are meant for unusual circumstances like small streets with only a few townhouses. I'm sure others will speak to the private road issue. Furthermore, planning did not perform a proper review of the private road as directed by Etobicoke York Council on 2 separate occasions. That's why you're having extra questions about the private road. There will be 396 units without parking spaces in building A and B, plus 211 in building C, for a total of 607 units without parking spaces. There is no comparable in Etobicoke. There's no overnight street parking. This will be a major source of resentment for the development's residents. In summary, the city's January 25th, 2025 Avenue Policy Review, followed by the OPA 778 and the MTSA delineations, were all released within a year, creating a state of confusion and an opportunity for developers to capitalize on the state of flux. The Richview Plaza site is next to a low-rise suburban neighborhood and should be subjected to transitional rules as the contract and zoning rules predate the above changes. This development and the plaza are important to Richmond Gardens and Princess Anne and surrounding communities. This is evidenced by the Richmond Gardens petition signed by more than 1,600 local residents that will be presented later. Lastly, I appeal to the Etobicoke City Councilors' knowledge of the area, experience, and common sense to reject 607 units on this site without parking and reject the full report.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, thank you for joining us, Mr. Beulah.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Michael Salerno. Welcome, Mr. Salerno. You have 5 minutes. Please begin.
Good morning, councilors. My name is Michael Salerno. I'm a resident of Etobicoke, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My wife and I are empty nesters and live within a 4-minute walk of this proposed development. I would like to convey my opposition based on the following points. Responsible development is being ignored. Fundamental planning principles are being ignored. An adequate parking plan is being ignored. Functional traffic, ignored. Neighborhood safety, ignored. For context, I think it's relevant for you to know I'm a former board member of the Building Industry Land Development Association. My company is a proud member of BUILD today. As you know, BUILD advocates for development, responsible development by responsible members who actually really care about the fabric of the communities where they build. Incidentally, it appears that Trinity Developments has chosen not to join BUILD for whatever reasons, but I digress. To be clear, my opposition of the proposed development isn't an example of NIMBYism. In fact, my community supports the approved 21 plan. However, now this developer is pushing for more scale, height, and density that are completely disconnected from the 21 approval. Allow me to ask rhetorically, why are we even having to do this? What kind of system do we have that allows for additional scale after approval? It seems this is an irresponsible request from a developer who doesn't care about the community. We believe they plan to just sell off 2 of the parcels anyways. There's no long-term goodwill. In addition to this being an irresponsible development plan, this proposal blatantly ignores fundamental planning principles. It's half-baked, and frankly, in my humble opinion, it's ridiculous. There were references made to Lansdowne Park in Ottawa and Dufferin and Bloor Street, and these are false equivalencies. This area is not those areas. It's a residential area. If you examine the proposed site itself, just the site, there's no consideration for how the increased density impacts circulation, access, and operational processes. There's a haphazard logistical nightmare waiting to happen if approved. The plan does not adequately take into consideration the need for service vehicles, including emergency vehicles, for example. There's also the matter of integration with the senior buildings and the many seniors who depend on easy access and friendly, safe passage to retail outlets like the TD Bank and the pharmacy. When it comes to just the parking component, for example, again, the proposal is completely inadequate and irresponsible. I would ask that you please ask yourselves why this developer's parking plan, if you want to call it that, is so underwhelming. 348 spots for 690 units and about half the allotment that the other buildings in the area provide. Narrow neighborhood streets designed in the 1960s are incapable of absorbing the parking and traffic overflow. Many of these same streets do not have sidewalks. Our community was not designed for this scale. Concerning the broader community, why are there no current or updated traffic and mobility studies? Where's the relevant data showing how this proposal impacts traffic flow on local streets? The intersection, extremely narrow at Beamerside and Eglinton on the south side, it's dangerous, it's intolerable now. Has there been an analysis that measures the crowds of students from Richview High School who converge on the retail options in the area multiple times a day? Aside from the traffic, there's pedestrian volume, seniors, for example, that should be studied. Elevated safety concerns alone should cause everyone to pause and revert to the already approved plan. Then we have the retail component, which is particularly prominent in the news today, as you know. This proposal impedes the neighborhood flavor of the only walkable retail option in the area. There was a reference to 10 minutes away. That's more like a half an hour walk for seniors. Come on. Residents have been walking to and using Richview Plaza for decades. I say this to all councillors here respectfully. The silent majority among your collective constituents definitely oppose this proposal. All of Etobicoke will be adversely impacted by this irresponsible plan. Please stand with us to oppose the developer's plan to irresponsibly plop two highly inappropriate high-rise buildings that will wreak havoc on the immediate area and our beloved Etobicoke community. Responsible development, the kind for which BUILD advocates, where stakeholders converse, cohabitate, and respect one another, is being ignored. The plan is also void of evidence-based evaluation, coordinated planning, and functioning circulation. Lastly, the proposal will cripple our communities. Enough is enough. The 21 plan is just fine. Thank you very much. We ask that you all please follow the wishes of your constituents and vote this proposal down. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salerno. Are there any questions? Councillor Nunziata, go ahead.
So we've heard parking and an issue by a number of deputants. So you are aware that council approved a report a few years ago on reducing parking requirements in development.
I am aware of that.
Yeah. So
It's still, in our opinion, it's still inadequate.
Yeah,
Especially when you're talking about doubling the scale on one of the buildings.
Eglinton and Western Road, which is my ward, I have 50 stories with no parking. I'm just trying to explain that the parking requirements have been reduced by city council. Also, are you aware that whatever this council does, or Toronto Council, that the applicant has the right to appeal?
I am aware.
Okay.
But where do you draw the line?
No, I'm just explaining, they have the right to appeal. So they will go to the T-Lab and, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Krista Kruja. Krista's online. Hello, Krista. It's Stephen Holliday from the Etobicoke York Community Council. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hi, Krista. It's Stephen Holliday from the Etobicoke York Community Council. You are live in the council chamber.
Hi. Thank you. Thank you so
have
much.
5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Yeah. I agree with Luisa and the previous speaker to reject the proposal and to stick to the 2021 one. I'm 5 minutes away from the plaza. Our family has an elderly, 88 years old, that depends on walking by to the plaza and having all these retails around there, and some of them that have been removed as well, like groceries shopping. And I know in my street there are at least 6 elderly that live alone and just rely on walking by to the plaza. So it's important, the traffic. So already the traffic is exhausting. So adding more units, the traffic, I don't think is studied enough to do the right job there. And decreasing of the parking spots is also disappointing, because increasing the units and decreasing the number of parkings for the people that come to the retail stores, this is also not acceptable. And also we have seen that doubling and tripling the number of floors, this is also not acceptable in a neighborhood that is almost all low-rising houses, private housing. So this is one. And the other one, so I see they are increasing 2 and 3 bedrooms, but I see they are increasing also studio apartments. So if you think to have housing for people, I think it's needed more 2 and 3 bedroom houses. Otherwise, it's a waste to bring studio apartments there. And yeah, so I completely oppose the new proposal. And I want the city councillor and everyone that is in charge to support the 2021 proposal.
Thank you, Krista. Are there any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, thank you for joining us today. Our next speaker is...
Sorry, I just wanted to add something else.
Yes.
So on the street right now, I see cars parking. So I live on Widdicombe Hill, on Waterford Drive, sorry. So the cars are already parking there. if you have less parking spots in the plaza, I believe it will be full of cars parking on our street, and it will be impossible to drive back and forth. And meanwhile, Eglinton is busy as it is, so our street has started to be very busy with cars. So also this will be another problem for the city.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Barry Morrison. Is Barry here or online? Hello, Mr. Morrison. It's
Thank
Stephen
you,
Holiday.
Mr.
Welcome.
Chairman.
You have 5
Can you hear
minutes.
me?
Yes, perfectly well. Please go ahead.
Well, thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, my name is Barry Morrison. I live at 1 Ireland Court, and I have sort of the odd situation of being a retired land use planner that happens to live in the community. So to say I have a few knocks on my door from time to time on this matter would be a bit of an understatement. But I'm going to make a few observations, and I'm going to try to make these a bit from a planning perspective as I see it. And the first observation I would make is that the City Council has a very major planning conundrum before it at this time. And the reason it has that conundrum is that it not only has a recommendation for approval of these tall buildings, extremely tall buildings, I might add, next to a low intensity community immediately, but you have another planning recommendation, not from another planner or just another professional. You've got it from your own esteemed planning department in the approval of the 2021 bylaw. And in that particular recommendation, those staff diametrically gave an opposing position as to what the staff of today are proposing. Specifically, they indicated that while staff acknowledge the site is appropriate for intensification, the proposed density, building heights, and massing of the current proposal would be more appropriately associated with intensification in the centers or downtown. Further, the proposal is not in keeping with the low-density neighborhoods surrounding the site. Now, it's important to know that that recommendation was made in respect of much lower buildings of 2019 and 12. And furthermore, the staff later in their official report, very much endorsing the fact that this site should be ideally a mid-rise site, indicated that staff would have no objection to a maximum building height of 11 stories, which is what the community wanted and what the old mid-rise guidelines noted. But they said that they think that it could actually handle more. It could handle up to 13 stories without serious impact on the community. And in that respect, they were really having regard to many other policies in the official plan, and a key one that was in place said tall buildings are desirable in the right places, but they don't belong everywhere. When poorly located and designed, tall buildings can physically and visually overwhelm adjacent streets, parks, and neighborhoods. And that particular provision has been modified to some extent, but the thrust of that is still there. And there's other policies in the official plan, of course, that certainly reflect that sentiment. Now, I guess the question is, what has changed? Why did the staff at this point in time change their view in such an extreme way? And as I review this, I come to the conclusion that they give great importance to the new OPA 778, and this of course was repeated in Ryan's proposal. And that says to achieve growth and intensification on avenues, development along avenues, A, will be up to the height and scale of a mid-rise building in mixed-use areas and apartment neighborhoods, and B, may go beyond the height and scale of a mid-rise building in mixed-use areas when located within 500 to 800 meter walk of an existing or planned subway station, light rail, or GO station. And from my perspective, there's been too much emphasis given to that particular policy. Immediately following that policy in the staff report, they did acknowledge overall the official plan should be read as a whole to understand its comprehensive and integrative intent as a policy framework for priority setting and decision making. And I don't think that was done. I can't see that in the report, and I can't see an assessment based on the word may. And the word may is something I actually had a detailed conversation with the proposals, or with the planning proponents at the city during that particular public consultation process. And the word may was very deliberately set. And it implies that there will be a very detailed study afterwards. And then when you get to kind of the conclusion of the report, it seems to say, well, in terms of its relationship to the community, it's okay relative to the design guidelines that measure sunlight and wind. Well, those aren't policy; those are guidelines. And the other situation is they only measure a couple of factors, and they don't go to the planning directive as to where there should be.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison.
Transition. Thank you, sir.
Are there any questions of the speaker? I will take the opportunity to ask the question then. Mr. Morrison, I just want to make sure I understand your observation, and I know you sent a letter to the committee. So if I heard you correctly, you pointed out that originally staff supported a mid-rise building in this area, and somehow that's changed to be a tall building. And central to that, from your read of the report, is this discussion around the new avenues official plan amendment. So just in your experience with these sort of things, if the decision is going to hinge around a word may, what is the kind of work and analysis that is required to flesh out that decision? Because otherwise, OPA 778 says this is a mid-rise, which is where we're at today. So if you're going beyond that, then what kind of work goes into that thinking?
Well, there's many other policies of the official plan that direct that, and one of them, of course, is that where redevelopment in a mixed-use area is occurring next to a low-profile neighborhood, that the development must not only be compatible with it, but it must reinforce the pattern of development in the lower rise community. So those are the kind of studies that are required as to, is transition required? Is this the best transition? In fact, a very simple test might be, what would be a better transition to this community? What would better reinforce it? The existing mid-rise development, or even possibly a modified mid-rise, or this very tall building proposal. And I think that when you go to that, you have to understand, I think, at least in my experience as planning, or as being in planning for as long as I have, is that in reality, architects and planners have no particular expertise as to telling you what is a better fit with a community. Their opinion is no better than the people who live there. In fact, the people who live there, are the important ones that you've got to listen to. And they can have techniques, and they can have measurement models and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, you really have to go to the people to ask, what is it that you think is the design objective in this particular community? So these are the kind of things that have to be done, and that can be done through public participation and so on and so forth. And some reference has been made to the public participation in this particular project, and I had the ability to attend one of the community meetings. I didn't speak there, and that was at the Old St. Luke's Church. And I think the staff said they thought 150 people came. Well, I think it was closer to 400. There was outside standing, and it started to get a little heated with a couple of our members, and so the staff shut it down after just a few minutes. So there wasn't much listening as to what was going on to the community there, and that should have happened. And again, even with the developer, I've been kept abreast of what meetings have happened with the developer, and there really haven't been very many. I think that sort of thing has to happen in order to decide what is the appropriate form of development next to this single family community. I guess you don't use the word single family anymore, but the low profile community. And what is the better fit? Is it a 30-story tower, or is it a 14-story mid-rise building. The other thing that has occurred to me anyway is that, you know, we have a large conversation going on in the city right now that we have many tall towers that aren't fitting the needs of the people. And we don't have very many mid-rise buildings. They're not as profitable or as desirable from the development perspective. But, you know, this is a very solid family-oriented community, and one would think that a mid-rise building would be more suitable to family-type accommodation than these towers. But I just offer that.
Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Are there any other questions? Councillor Peruzza, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, it's not often we get to talk to planners on who are objecting to density. I guess my question is this: so you were a planner here in the city of Toronto somewhere?
Yes, somewhere. Yeah.
Okay, but not a city planner. You were like, because I don't remember you being a city planner, and I've been around for a while. So I guess you were just a planner for applications and so on, right?
Well, actually, I'm pretty old, so you would have to
I'm just a teenager, but I've been around for a while.
I was the City of Etobicoke Planning Commissioner at one time for a lengthy period. And
okay. So let me ask you a question.
I was also the Deputy Planning Commissioner and Acting Planning Commissioner for Metropolitan Toronto.
Oh, now I got the right guy on the phone call. Listen, question is this. So at one point, we were doing city building and locating density in city centers and sub-centers. You know, we were creating sub-centers. Why? Because it protected to some degree stability of neighborhoods, didn't create the same kind of congestion, allows for more predictability in development, and the growth in that format was steady Eddie, you know, slow and easy but continuous. You remember that?
Well, I have distinct recollections of that. Probably the Etobicoke City Center was launched under my leadership at that time, and I certainly at earlier iterations in my career, I had a great deal to do
wonderful.
with the North York City Center and the Scarborough City Center.
Perfect. Yes. And people like you worked a lifetime to convince or to explain to people like me and everyone else that made good sense for city building. What happened? Why are we now in a world of letter rip everywhere and really are getting ourselves into all kinds of trouble from a cost perspective, from a congestion perspective, all of those things that when you look at it through, you know, environmental lenses, economic lenses, it makes for bad city building. Why are we here now? What happened?
Well, I think that there's a lot of issues. Clearly, the city is extremely large, and you now have an amalgamated city, and the political structure is very difficult for one councillor at one end of the city to understand what's going on in another. Those are some issues, and of course there is a need to provide housing, and you know, overall, I think some of the thrust to provide housing along the transit lines makes some sense, and you know, but it doesn't mean that you throw the baby out with the bathwater either, and you know, planners are clearly overwhelmed. It's a very huge department that you have. It's very bureaucratic, and there's a lot of pressures. Right now, there's this housing crisis that everybody is bolting towards to, well, whatever the problem is, just make more housing and everything will get better.
But we've
of
had a
course, that's
housing
not working.
crisis ever since we came out of the caves, right? Like we've had, you know, problems sort of sheltering ourselves. Housing crisis isn't anything new. I mean, it's been around since, I don't know, we started to walk upright, right?
Well, it's certainly been something you've needed, yes.
But my question was fundamentally this to you, because you did allude to it. When we do this type of development, and I might speak to it a little later, or when there's this change in the way we city build, it adds a number of really serious components to city building, i.e. drives up cost, speculation, construction, time, approvals, technical studies, all of that stuff, which means that then builders have to build more risk. They take on more risk and more probabilities, therefore adding to the square foot sale of their products, right? Does that make good city building sense to you?
Last question.
Well, it's certainly an issue and one that needs to be addressed, and it can't go ignored. Do I have an answer for it in these 30 seconds? No, I don't.
Thank you.
Listen, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to pontificate a little bit.
Thank you, Councillor Perruzza. Thank you, Mr. Morrison. Our next speaker is Russ Emberton. Welcome to Community Council. You have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good morning, councillors. So I have lived in the area being discussed all my life, and I care deeply about developing Etobicoke fairly and respectfully and maintaining the beauty of Etobicoke. I've shopped at Richview Square Plaza regularly for over 50 years, so I'm part of the community. In 2021, the local community, the City of Toronto, and Créteil, and the owner of Richview Square Plaza came to an agreement which included the owner acquiring the adjacent property at 4620 Eglinton Avenue West, directly from the City of Toronto rather than through a public tender process. The agreement included approval to build 3 buildings of 11, 11, and 12 stories with additional retail space. The owner of Richview Square Plaza and the adjacent 4620 Eglinton Avenue West property is now reapplying to permit the building of a 24-story and a 29-story building. The developer is reapplying to amend the 2021 approved plan, as we've heard, through multiple applications through the Committee of Adjustment and even a pending Ontario Land Tribunal appeal. In this application, the proposed building heights are extremely tall, and there is no other building in the area that is this tall. The proposed buildings will overlook, not overshadow, but overlook the residential homes in the area, including my family's home. Increasing the building heights from 11 and 12 stories to 24 and 29 stories is materially different than the original 2021 approved plan and agreement. Essentially, the application is asking to double and triple, or nearly triple, the building heights. It seems to me that the developer is essentially disregarding the agreement that was part of the original condition to acquire the property at 4620 Eglinton Avenue West. There is significant community opposition against building heights of 24 and 29 stories and the associated density in this residential area. The Richmond Gardens and Princess Anne Residents Association has a petition, and you'll probably hear about it more, with over 1,600 signatures asking for City Council to reject this zoning application in order to uphold the original 2021 approved plan. I am one of those people that signed that petition. That petition represents 1,600 families that do not agree with the proposed building heights regardless of what city planning is recommending. The community supports development of the property in a fair and respectful manner, which was agreed upon with the developer, the community, and the City of Toronto in the 2021 council-approved plan. So the community needs your support to ensure that the development of this property is done fairly and respects the community. So I strongly request that the Etobicoke York Council reject the rezoning application for buildings A and B at 250 Wincott Drive and 2640 Eglinton Avenue West due to the extremely tall and unprecedented building heights. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, thank you for joining us today.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Otmar Brandow, online. Hello, Otmar. It's Stephen Holliday from the Etobicoke York Community Council. Can you hear me okay? Is Otmar online?
Oh, there we go.
Welcome to the
Yes, good
Community
morning,
Council. You have 5
Councillors.
minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm here to support the people that are rejecting this proposal. I live on Royalwood Court, and I also speak with for my partner, Christine Billa. We live in Royalwood Court. And we're going to the Ridgeview Plaza frequently, even though because of all the confusion about what's going to happen, some of these stores have already left. I have several concerns about the proposed tall buildings. And I understand that the City of Toronto wants to build more housing. That is all very good. And they have reduced their parking space allocations. And that is a problem, I think, because we don't know how many people will have cars in these dwellings. There may be some statistics that says, you know, whatever is proposed, the number of parking spaces is enough. But there is no guarantee that any of this is true. And I've seen developments. I was in Albania, in Tirana, and there is no planning when it comes to parking spaces, and it's total chaos. And I can see this happening here as well, that people that don't find parking where they, you know, wanted to park, they're going to park on the adjacent streets. There are elderly people. There are students in the neighboring schools that use these streets, and I'm really concerned that this will long term be, you know, chaos basically and a problem. There will be congestion, of course. And it will be, it just, this development does not fit in this residential area. I mean, when you look just behind the plaza, you see all these single family dwellings, one-story dwellings, and then you want to put a 29-story high-rise in very close proximity. I don't understand that anybody would think this is a fitting development for our neighborhood. So I urge the council to reject this proposal and go back to what was agreed on in 2021, which is a reasonable extension of housing in this area, and will not you know, lead to the kind of problems that I just outlined. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Otmar. Are there any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, thank you for joining us today. Our next speaker is Christine Billac. Is Christine here or online? Christine is online. Stephen Holliday from the Etobicoke York Community Council. Can you hear us okay?
Christine had to leave. I'm her partner.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. Our next speaker is Denny Martin. Is Denny here or online? Denny, welcome to the Community Council. Come on up to the podium. You've got 5 minutes.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to a resident's comments or concerns. My name is Danny Martin. My home is the third house from the mall. My family has lived there for 19 years. I am very concerned with the new development proposals. I would like to clarify by adding that I am in favor of reasonably developing the property into mixed-use residential and commercial spaces. However, the new proposed changes can only have a negative impact on the community and the city, in my opinion. A minor variance process has already reduced the number of parking spots and hundreds of residents and retail visitors, conferring a benefit to the developer, but not to the people using the site. It is only inevitable that the overflow will go to the surrounding residential area, which was not designed for or intended for street parking. The increased use of infrastructure is also a concern, as we have approximately 4 power outages a year in that area, and the area is prone to flooding. My understanding is that the expected number of new children cannot be accommodated by existing schools, leading to busing for the new residents. Doubling the size and height of the proposed buildings can only make this worse. The LRT will definitely help with transportation, but it is not a miracle cure for the inevitable increase in road use. After having negotiated a reasonable mid-rise redevelopment plan with the city in 2021, the developer is seeking to significantly increase building heights to 24 and 29 stories. These are abutting single-family homes, a low-rise retirement home, and low-rise apartment building. This is egregious on so many fronts. There was a CBC News report last week which argued that low-rise apartments would bring greater affordability and choice to Canada's housing market. This is exactly what the community and the city councillors negotiated in 2021. However, the developer is not honoring that agreement and is proposing to rezone to high-rise buildings. This is disrespecting the process, the residents, and city council. Please do not let a developer circumvent what the residents welcomed and the council approved in the 2021 plan. Keep Toronto a livable city. And that concludes my comments. However, I don't really want to go ad lib, but I do want to actually address a question that Councillor Nziata had, just as some observations. But I'll wait for her attention if that's okay. I still have a couple minutes. Sounds good. Well, Councillor Nunziata asked an earlier speaker here if that individual was aware that the developer has the right to appeal. And I think everyone here recognizes that. And yes, they do have the right to appeal. But my question back to everyone here and back to Councillor Nunziata is, who's driving the bus? Sorry, I promise I wouldn't go ad lib because I get very passionate, but I'll try and keep it calm. Who is driving the bus? Let me get there. Is it the city planning department that is driving these changes? Is it the city council that is driving these changes? Is it the Ontario Land Tribunal that decides what happens in our neighborhoods? Is it the developers who are self-interested developers that drive the decision-making process for our communities with our best interests in mind? Is it the mayor that is driving these decisions? Is it the premier that's driving these decisions? I really don't know I don't know enough about what's going on and how all this works, and how, to your comment earlier, Councillor Caruza, what changed to the development process from 20, 30, maybe 40 years ago for you? Who knows? However, we need to answer here is council needs to answer that question, because we need to be aware that this development will have a significant impact. Low rise is permitted, allowed, and as I said in the news report.
Are there any questions of the speaker? Seeing none, thank you for joining us. Our next speaker is Sonia Pace, Richmond Gardens Residents Association.
Thank you very much.
Welcome. 5 minutes.
So I'm the last speaker, correct? I think so. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Double check. Are there any other speakers on that didn't register? Thank you. You are the last speaker.
So my name's Sonia Pace, and I'm one of the co-leads, along with Louisa that you heard earlier, of the Richmond Gardens Ratepayers Association, which includes Princess Anne, and we have a membership of about 700 households. So my purpose really for this last presentation is to present our Save Richview plan. And we reached about 16 plus signatures, and I wanted to point because that is a significant number, and on that petition in the is that it was done through change.org, and we went through every single signature in the postal codes included in that petition, and we did pull out some of the outliers, but almost 1,200 of them are from the NR postal code, and the remaining are to Dundas, all the communities that use this plaza. And as I said, some of them were outliers, so we removed those numbers. The response was extraordinary. And I also want to just point out that there has, as you know, there's about 83 plus letters that were submitted to EYCC. And many of them were all copied to the various levels of government as well. I think we've had, including myself, 11 speakers today. And I'm really pleased to have heard, so, you know, the eloquency and the thoughtfulness and the passion from everyone. I think that says a lot. And there was a little outburst out in the audience of more like it's a supportive cheer. I think people were being very respectful. And the fact that, you know, you're facing, I didn't take account, but to me it looks like it's a full chamber, and we've got some people outside. I don't know if it's 100 people, 75 people, I'm not sure. I think that's incredible, and I thank everyone for coming out. But I also want to take the last few moments here to say that as much as the people here, the speakers, the letters, the correspondence, etc., are critical, because the emphasis really is that they are key people who live here, we work here, we bring up our families here, we shop here, and we walk to this plaza. So we are true stakeholders, and I think our voice matters. We, as you know, support density. We were very appreciative of the compromise development, but we can't support a process that's here in front of us today. It really is, we have no choice but to say, please reject it for all the reasons that you heard. I can repeat them, but I think I don't want to disrespect the speakers that we had. I think everything was said, so I won't go over that. But the reason I do have to just make a comment, though being the last speaker, and you can allow me that liberty, is to just comment on some of what was said by Trinity's lawyer and speaker, which further, for us, perplexed, well, made us feel even stronger about this issue, because what was said was not necessarily the case, particularly about sort of wanting to trust the developer in the city. We've already reached a point where we don't trust the developer. or the situation because of the Create Toronto situation, the agreement, the way it fell apart, came apart, or just was a signed agreement. But the OLT movement has happened. We're going to the OLT on December the 10th. So I'm not sure who's taking accountability for an agreement that was broken. I also don't really know if there's been an answer to why it was a sole source developer that was chosen to use or purchase the city lands. That's never been addressed as well. And I think furthermore, we heard that the lawyers say that this developer will retain ownership, but we've been told otherwise, and there was a discussion about having had 2 meetings with the developer, and one of them was with Daniels in the room, and that discussion was about severing the lots. How did the community feel about higher heights? Because if we were, they were interested in getting involved. We've never heard back from them, so that was one meeting. The second meeting that was alluded to was recently when the Committee of Adjustment asked Trinity to meet with us because there was so much confusion during those meetings.
Thank you, Ms. Pace.
Did I already reach my time?
You did.
Oh my gosh.
We
Anyway, thank you very
I
much.
almost lost track. I was listening so intently. Are there any questions?
Thanks for your patience, everyone.
Any questions of the speaker? Don't go away. Are there any questions of the speaker? I'm going to just ask a couple of quick ones. I think the community knows, because it's in all of the materials somewhere, that the developer changed their plans on building C, which is not part of the scope of this application, but is part of the site. And when they changed their plans, they increased the number of units that they intend to put in there.
Mm-hmm.
And that effectively vacuumed away the available units from the balance of the site. So they're in a really awkward spot. I don't know that they can even build the third of their buildings with the current approval and what they've done with Building C. Do you think there's room for a conversation with the community, knowing there's a really practical problem for this developer right now? You know, they're between a rock and a hard spot. Is there room for a conversation? It doesn't sound like there's been a lot up until now, but do you think there's a willingness to work through the community to see if something amicable can be reached on this development?
I appreciate that question because I think we've shown that behavior in the past. We're a really reasonable community. And yes, discussions going forward would be very welcomed.
And I just want to confirm, it was said that there was 2 meetings. One of those meetings was purely in the context of parking. And the other meeting, I think, was with a third party. If I recall, they were exploring purchasing part of the site, or partnering. I shouldn't say purchase. I don't know what they were exactly going to do, but there was some partnership that was being explored. Did I understand that right? Is that what the community understood?
Yep, that is correct.
Okay, so there hasn't been any real sort of work with respect to this proposal, because I think the current proposal was posted on December 4th.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's happened over the last couple of years.
Correct.
Okay, but to confirm, there is a willingness and recognition that, you know, things don't have to be static since 2021.
That's correct.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Seeing none. Bring this into committee. Are there questions of staff on the item? Deputy Mayor Morley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And wanting to just thank everyone for their time today and have got us thinking about some important aspects of this. I wanted to first address the issue of the timing of transit. We know a lot of concern was raised related to justification about higher order transit that does not currently exist. And I've had some pain points in my own community around that same issue that continue. What is the timing, proposed timing and expectation for the Eglinton LRT higher order transit that is under construction?
Yes, good morning. So through the chair to you, Councillor. I can speak to a few points and then I will hand it to my colleague from SEPA who can...
Okay, I have about 4 or 5 questions, so I'm just going to caution you so we can hopefully try to get through all of them. Go ahead.
Okay.
Pause the time.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, she's going to start, but as the colleagues transition.
Okay. So my apologies. So MTSAs for Islington and also Kipling are draft. So they haven't received the minister's decision on those. And so those are working their way through the systems. In terms of delivery of the Eglinton Crosstown, we know that it's far behind the Finch Avenue West Crosstown, and not even the city from our level of when it would extend to that area.
That's very helpful. And with respect to those future stations that are not, quite through the process, are those tied to private development companies to deliver, or is it our understanding that that will be solely delivered through Metrolinx in the province?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. So I don't have the answer to that. I would have to pass it to my staff who focus on MTSAs and PMTSAs.
Okay, that's helpful, and a flag to my councillor colleague is that the public-private partnerships have not gone well, have not delivered for community, so I'll just flag that for the local community as well. In terms of the 2021 proposal, we've heard repeatedly that folks would prefer us to reject this and revert back to that. Is the 2021 proposal before us? And if we were to reject this particular application, is there any process or procedure where that would revert back automatically to the previous proposal?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. So if what was in front of you at the present time was rejected, then the existing zoning would remain in place. So it wouldn't be reverting to that, but it would just be the existing continues.
Maintaining that, okay. That's helpful to note, thank you. And then the final question that I wanted to raise here, we heard from Mr. Morrison about his analysis of what has changed since 2021. It's been 3 years I've been in office, and there has been a breakneck speed of legislative changes from the provincial government around planning specific legislation and guidance. Can you provide some highlights as to what some of those particular changes have been that have impacted the way that our planning staff approach planning applications?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. So I also joined the Planning Department in 2022, so around the same time, and I would agree it's a breakneck speed. So what I've seen coming from the provincial level, of course, was Bill 109, Bill 185, and a spate of other provincial pieces of legislation. I would have to hand it to my colleagues in SEPA. We're grappling now with new legislation that's just coming down in the last few weeks. So what we have specific to the site, we do have the updated avenues policies, which Barry Morrison discussed on behalf of the community, where we can consider higher heights along avenues. So we do have that. But even in advance of that policy, the OLT and the city was seeing their way to towers along the Eglinton corridor. We have 2400 Eglinton Avenue West to the east at 35 stories, 4000 Eglinton Avenue West in the high 20s, and we also have one Ridgeview Road at 29 stories. So even in the absence of that policy that said we may consider the higher heights, approvals for towers have been coming forward and have gained approval.
Thank you. And so my understanding from many discussions and navigating many files with colleagues in the planning department is that in the legislative context, the most permissive policies prevail. And so if the city has a particular policy and the province, for example, through Building Better Homes Faster Act, one of the bills, I can't recall the number, supersedes ultimately what the city's guidance would be. Is that a fair assessment, or is that a correct understanding?
To you, Councillor, we do have to consider all of it within the scope of our planning analysis.
Okay, I think I'm thinking when we get to OLT, where we ultimately find ourselves landing, which has been a big challenge. I'll speak to that in my comments. Thank you, those are my questions.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Councillor Nunziata.
Okay, so can you just, I know from a number of deputants, they talked about the parking requirements. Can you just explain that, please?
Yes, thank you through the chair to you, Councillor. So we do know that in 2022, there was a big change in the way that city handles parking. We no longer have minimums that we can require. So what we do on a site basis, we review the technical studies that are submitted by the applicant, by their consultants, and we determine if that proposed parking rate works for the proposed uses. So it is true that in the revised proposal, the number of parking spaces are reduced. I would would want to hand it to my transportation colleagues who are here to speak to that a bit more about the appropriateness of the parking rate that we've landed on. Thank you.
So through the chair, so yes, there is the new bylaw that was approved 2-3 years ago that essentially eliminates minimum parking standards for virtually all uses, save and except for a minor amount of residential visitor parking. And the intent of this project is to comply with the rates and standards in that bylaw.
So was there any discussion with the applicant that in the previous application they had, it's my understanding they had more parking spaces and then they asked for the density and they reduced it. Was there any conversation with the applicant to keep the parking as was first recommended in their other application?
Through the chair, one of the key things that we have to consider is that when the earlier application was submitted to the city formally, I think it was in 2018 or maybe even 2017, the new bylaw was not in effect at that time. Right. So there was a more rigorous analysis provided at that time in terms of establishing site-specific parking standards. Now the new application has come in and the new bylaw is in effect and they are complying with that. But to be fair, they're also alluding to the fact that there is going to be a public transit line here that will eventually be constructed. And they're relying on that to sort of further justify the parking standards that they're proposing, which again, meet the intent of the new bylaw.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but was there any discussion with the applicant to keep the existing parking requirements?
Through the chair, not to my recollection offhand, no.
There was no discussion at all. Okay, and then as well as, if it's appealed, because more than likely it will, what would be at the tribunal?
Through the chair to you, Councillor, can I request a clarification on the question?
So if this application gets appealed, what would be appealed? Like what would be at the tribunal? What would the discussion be?
Yes, through the chair to you. So the whole application would be looked at. They would look at the proposed heights, the proposed density, the parking, and evaluate it against the planning framework and determine if they can reach an approval.
Can I think?
Sure. Yeah. Through the chair, the applications before us would be appealed to the OLT if that was the case. My understanding is that developers have the opportunity to revise their application through that process, through the appeal process.
So they could revise their application before it gets to the tribunal?
That's a possibility.
It's a possibility. And has there been any discussions with the applicant to do that?
No.
No?
It's not. No.
But is the applicant willing to work with the community to come up with a compromise?
Did you want to take that, Lisa? I haven't had that discussion with the applicant.
There was no discussion with the applicant on that?
So through the chair to you, Councillor. So the relationship between the developer and the community feels quite strained from what I understand from the developer's perspective. So they did have a number of meetings as a part of the original approval, and they did have those 2 meetings that the chair clarified for us. In terms of their willingness to sit back down at the table with the community, I can't speak to it. I would want to see if I can invite either Eileen or the planner to speak to that.
So if it gets appealed and then it comes and they approve the land, then there's a settlement offer. So at the end of the day, then the community, there's no community benefits, correct, for the community?
So through the chair to you, Councillor, there is a package of community benefits that was secured through the original 2021 approval. It's substantial and it continues to remain in place. The developer is looking to change it or remove it, but there would be a possibility or an open door for that to be through an OLT appeal, unfortunately.
To get additional benefits then, with the increased density, there's a possibility of getting increase. No? Anthony, I'm just wondering if the applicant was willing to do that.
Through the chair to you, Councillor, I can't speak to the applicant's willingness to do that. Right now, we're focused existing Section 37, which we have, which far exceeds in value what we would yield from the site, as Councillor Peruzza pointed out.
But, oh, sorry, I just.
Do you
one
need
last
more
que-
time? Do
to
you want
ju-
one more?
Okay, just one. So with increased density, there should be.
So through the chair to you, Councillor. So we did the developer to see if we could negotiate further benefits. At the time that we did do the Section 37 and have that in place, there was not a formal cost or value associated with it. But when we look at the park, the POPs, the community center, the $660,000 that they'll pay to outfit that community center, as well as roadway improvement, signalization, it's a hefty package, and it's multi-millions. The developer said that they felt approval and for the new, and that's something that we ultimately agreed to. That package was sufficient for the existing 2021 approval and continues to be sufficient now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Councillor Peruzza.
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Sorry, it's
I'm going to try to get.
We'll go Councillor Peruzza and then Councillor Crisanti. Is that okay? You take the next set?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank
Carry
you.
on.
Go ahead, Councillor Peruzza.
I just want to ask a question related to the comment that said that if community council and council rejects the application, then the existing zoning basically stays in place. And really, my question is like to the legal folks here, okay, to the lawyers. So, community council, and in part, I also want to answer that gentleman's question back there. Who's the triad? Who makes all of this stuff happen? Where does the decision making take place? So, the question is this: if community council and city council turns down this application, and the applicant then appeals to the tribunal, where is this decision ultimately made?
Through the chair, Councillor, my colleague Matt Longo is the lawyer on the file, and he can speak to your question.
Sure.
Hi, Councillor. Through you, Mr. Chair. You've answered the question through your question, sir. When a matter is appealed to the Ontario Land Tribunal, they are the decision maker.
Okay, they are the decision. Bingo. Okay. Who gets to go to the Ontario Land Tribunal?
Well,
when an applicant appeals.
Well, sir, the municipality.
Yeah.
Is this working? Thank you. So, sir, an appellant who appeals to the OLT is a party to those proceedings, and the municipality would be as well, provided that city council instructs it to attend.
Exactly. So the applicant goes with his lawyers and consultants and everybody else, his whole team of folks. Do I get to go?
Sir, through you, Mr. Chair, city council instructs the city solicitor to act on behalf of the municipality,
Correct.
represent the municipality.
So city council basically says to you, the city solicitor, and the city solicitors, go and deal with this issue because we are required to. We can't. I guess we could stay away and just then let them have their day. But it would be imprudent. So we say to you, go and if we reject the application as a city council, we could say to you, go and defend city council's rejection, city council's of this application. You then go out and try to find, because you don't have any internal planners you can take with you because they've already said they're good with the application. They're good with this report. That's the evidence they're going to provide at the land tribunal, right? So you go out and you try to find a land use planner to defend city council's position, and you can't find one because nobody will do that, right? And then you're left basically naked and they have their day, correct?
Through you, Mr. Chair, you have you've described the process through which City Council would instruct the city solicitor to appear at the OLT. Yes.
Perfect. And if our planners come with you, their evidence is basically in support of the report or the application we have in front of us. So their evidence will be, yep, if this happens, we're good with that.
Councilor, you have the report, and that reflects the professional planning opinion of city staff. Yes.
Correct. Okay. So then I can't go. Councillor Holiday can't go, and if he does go as a participant, he effectively gets shut out, or anybody else for that matter. So then it just basically the people in the room are you, our planners, who are good, the developer, who is extra good, his consultants and lawyers who follow his or her instructions. So where does the decision take place and by whom? It sounds to me like it's city planning. And I'm just really looking for a yes or no, right? City planning with the city lawyer, the developer and the developer's lawyers, and the land tribunal, a hearing person who is there basically, to nod at all of you agreeing and shaking your heads together, right?
Councilor, that's maybe a simplification. Certainly evidence will be provided.
No, but I just wanted to make it clear, because sometimes we get confused about where and how and why, and it's actually really simple, right? It's not complicated at all when you look at it in terms of its functionality, right?
Thank you, Councillor Perruzza.
Okay.
Next questions are from Councillor Crisanti. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be quick for the sake of everyone's time here. But, I heard a comment earlier, and I believe, Elisa, you mentioned that the original 2021 approved community benefits agreement are still intact exactly as they currently were approved back then, correct?
Through the chair to you, Councillor, yes, that's correct.
And that approval also, includes all the financial commitment for that, even though the costs likely would have increased quite a bit. Fast forward to today, and of course, we don't know when Shell is going to get into the ground, and it will continue to rise at that point. The commitment is to maintain those different parts of the community benefits agreement, regardless of when this thing gets built.
Through the chair to you, Councillor. In part, that's correct. However, the cash contributions are indexed, and then also for the roadway improvements and others, the applicant is under obligation to give us updated cost estimates that we would approve. So there is some opportunity for tailoring to current economic realities.
Okay. A lot of my other questions were already answered. So, Mr. Chair, I'm fine with that, and we can proceed. Thank you.
Thank you. So I had a couple. To the clerk, the report recommendations suggest that council approve bylaw attachment number 5. When was that posted? Safe to say a couple of days ago.
So attachment posted on November 21st.
Okay. To planning staff, the applicant last submitted and it was posted for public review on November 4th, 2025, their last revisions to their submission. Is that correct?
Through the chair, or to the chair, yes, that's correct.
And so does your report effectively give support to everything that the applicant has asked for?
So to the chair, so I would say there was a cleanup submittal that came directly to city staff through email. So if you look at the date on the materials that are included in that November 4th package, those are October materials. So before we made our recommendations, before we did our final draft of the bylaw, and also before we did the final draft of the staff report, we reviewed all of those materials and came to the conclusion that yes, this is a supportable and approvable project. After that, the applicant did formalize it and put them up on November 4th.
But my question was, it effectively aligns. So what the applicant submitted aligns with your report. And so is there any reason to expect that the applicant is going to appeal to the OLT if this is approved?
So to the chair, so everything does align between staff's analysis. And so I would not expect the applicant to appeal if an approval was granted.
Okay. There was a little bit of discussion around an MTSA, but I think, do I understand your report correctly? And it says that it does not come into this because you relied on other policies. Is that right?
Well, through the chair or to the chair, we do look at everything. So the report discusses the changes to the avenues policies. Also in the context, it does discuss the land immediately to the east of Wingcott that council recently approved for transfer to the province for the development of the TOC. So it does touch on those points. In terms of the MTSA, we didn't go too far into it because those are still draft. Of course, within this year, the city did approve those draft PMTSAs to the west of Keelsdale Station. So, you know, that legislation needs to work its way through the province before those are in full force and effect.
No one's consulted with the community on those yet, have they? That's part of the plan.
So to the chair and fellow councillors, I would want to hand it to my colleagues in SEPA who have a better understanding of that process.
I don't think we need to go into too deep. And if I asked you to come back and tell me more about the outcomes of the OLT with respect to Building C, which is kind of tied up with this report, and I asked to take a deeper look at the transportation materials that were submitted and some of the changes in those, could you do that in a couple of days or would you need a couple of weeks?
To the chair, I would prefer a couple of weeks.
Okay.
We have already completed our analysis of the transportation materials that were uploaded on November 4th because those were October, so that we could do quite quickly.
Okay.
The other portion I would want to take due time.
Okay. Thank you. And lost where I've written down my question here because I had a really good one for you. Oh, just the community benefits. It's a park, and that's tied up with Building C, which is not before us. It's a community space, about 460 square meters. And I think there's some affordable housing and some traffic lights because, you know, they're building a new intersection. But that was it. Those were the community benefits that have been offered so far.
So to the chair and fellow councillors, if you don't mind, I'll kind of go through my list as I understand it. So we do have the community agency space in the base of Building B. We have 660,000 indexed to outfit that community space above the base building conditions. We have 54 affordable units that were secured through that for a period of 25 years. Also stipulations for size, number, density, and distribution. We have the POPs. We have the 1,700 square meter public park. It's to base park conditions as well as above base park conditions. And then we also have the new traffic control signal, pavement markings, and road improvements in that package.
Thank you. That's all my questions time. I will now take it into committee to speak. Thank you, though. Members wishing to speak on the item, I'm going to obviously speak to it. No? Okay. I'll allow you last. Would you? You're going to allow me last. Thank you. It's very gracious, Vice Chair. Did you want to go ahead?
I wasn't going to say all about this, but you know, it's an opportunity to repeat something that I've said before, and I'm trying to say it a little simpler each and every time. Okay. I think to some degree, our planning is going down the track that isn't going to achieve what we ultimately want to achieve. We're going to build less housing instead of more. And I'll try to explain why. I get it. I understand the way planning works. I understand the planners have no real ability to come in here and say, you know what, we're going to write a favorable report on 11 stories. We believe that in 2022 we were correct, so we're going to write another report that says that we were correct, and we're going to stand our ground. I know they can't do that. I'm not an idiot. They can't do that. Why? Because the province is forever changing legislation that lets it rip. More, more, more. Housing, 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 right? But I think that's wrong-headed. I agree the more is true, but the more housing is not. So you can have density without having a whole lot of height and a whole lot of height everywhere. I mean, you only need to look around, Rome, Paris, London. Fine, those cities were built out at a time when they didn't have cranes or concrete and steel, where you could go, 120 stories in the air and it would stay up. We get that. We understand that, right? But you can still, to some degree, achieve density. We now have two folks in the development business. There's developer speculators and there's builders. I believe development speculation is going against the interests of real builders. And I think we're going to hear that going down the road. We will, because you can't sustain what we're doing now. Builders will come in and say, sorry, you got to add more predictability into this. It can't be something that's going to be out there forever, because then the costs just become prohibitive for everybody, and we can't do anything. You know what a builder wants to do? Pick up that site over there, come in for a building permit the next day, be in the ground in 3 months, and then market, and then have it occupied a year and a half, and be gone. Predictable. I know what the land cost is. I know what my construction costs. I know what my timetable is. I'm in, out, I'm gone. Right? And you have housing left. What this system does, that we're doing here, is like happened in my ward 2 months ago. Guy comes in, 11-story building approved. Now they got 29, and now it's up for sale again. It'll be back in for 49. Just continually keeps driving up the cost of land because they can. Drives up the cost of construction because you're going ever higher. More steel, more concrete, more construction, wind endurance, and all of those other things that you have to do, more elevators. There are breaking points to construction, right? 29 stories, 46, 47, then you have to add another elevator, there's more cost, changes your floor plate, changes the width of the building, changes its wind resistance, all of those things, right? And boom, 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 boom. Now the unit at this corner up here on 49 stories, that one-bedroom unit dictates the price for all the other units below at a much, much higher value. So construction is basically being driven out of the reach of most people. Construction costs, land costs, time. And time, by the way, is the killer. Because now a more complicated, more intense development takes more consultants, takes more reports, takes more time, takes more site plan, takes more technical issues to overcome. Time, time, time. Marketing, you're out there in sales, a much longer period. So you got to build into your speculative element a much higher per square foot cost because you're building in a very, very unpredictable component, high risk component, time. So who, at the end of the day, is then able to afford that product, right? And that's what's happened to our housing. So while the province says more housing, we're actually going to get less and less. You got one construction worker who can build a house in a year. You're going to build one house a year. You can say, yeah, I want 20 houses.
Thank you, Councillor.
You're just going to get the one, right? Because that's all they can build.
Thank
There's
you.
that one, right?
Any other speakers on the item? All right, I'll go ahead. Madam Clerk, could you place my motion? Okay, so my motion looks long, but it is asking to defer consideration of this item till the 2 meetings from now. And it asks for a number of report backs. And I can go through them quickly, but it has to do with a review of the transportation study, about a public roadway, about the outcome of the OLT decisions, which are going to be considered around December 10th. Some performance statistics concerning the floor space index, an update on the major transit station areas, and a review of the bylaw, which just got posted a couple of days ago. And secondly, very important, is that it asks the Director of Community Planning and the applicant, in consultation with the councillor, which really means in consultation with the community, to continue discussions, to try to resolve the community's concerns, and to come back and tell us how that went. And I think that that is tremendously important. Members, I actually had a refusal motion drafted. I didn't place it today. It's here in my hand. It's what the community asked for. But I think that there's an opportunity to work on this a little bit. You need to know, this is the map of the area. There are no buildings anywhere near this big, anywhere close to this. They're a couple of kilometers away, further down past Royal York, over by the 427. This is huge. And you need to know that the community consultation meeting, the last time anyone really talked about this proposal in 2023, got so out of hand that members of the public had to be ejected and the meeting was shut down before it was done. That's how upset and distrusting people are in this process. Could you imagine working for years to arrive at a mid-rise development that everyone kind of liked but didn't really like but were willing to live with? And that included, by the way, some really good retail like a grocery store that just kind of vanished. Last I heard was they were approved for up to that much non-residential DFA, but they decided not to build it. How frustrating can you experience? And what undermines it is that people don't trust the government, they don't trust the applicant, they don't trust the process. That's really frustrating, and it is really difficult to try to improve a situation where somebody is trying to make some improvements to the site and provide housing. Is there a path on this? Well, you need to know, and I asked the question before, because of all the Committee of Adjustment changes and modifications to the one building that's been chopped out of what's before us, it hoovered up a whole bunch of permissions for units. And so the developer's stuck now because they put all of what they were allowed to into one spot. I understand that. I think the community understands that, and I think there's an opportunity for a discussion. But unfortunately, what came back is something really big. And it matters. So there's 2 parts to why it matters. The first is people are really worried about their plaza. They are genuinely concerned of a multi-phase development over probably many, many years, and how that plaza will be protected. Because if it's gone, there are all the local all the local stores and services. And we know, we just had that discussion at council about how difficult it is to have local services to support the community. So I don't know what they're left with if the plaza fails. So that is, and I apologize, I didn't hit run, so I'll take some time off, but I won't be long. So that's issue number 1, and that's really why they're pushing for a public road. So if the site is going to be intensified even further than before, and then it needs to be divided up in a format that we can objectively look at the buildings. By the way, if there's a public road put through the site, then you look really at the buildings themselves and the parcels of land that they sit on, and you don't add things in like a plaza and a park and road space to net out an FSI or a density figure. You actually look objectively at what's there. And I think what members may find is that it is very, very dense as what is proposed, something that you might find in an urban setting. But you can't see that because of the way that the proposal is brought forward. So I understand why people don't really want to have that conversation, but I think it's important. I also think it's a really important public policy question that if you're going to have a roadway serving a plaza and 3 big buildings, that will have thousands upon thousands of trips per day. At 8.5 meters wide, the width of one of the side streets, I think that there's a public interest in having this as a public road and not a private road. It's not a muse serving some townhouses. That is a very important public policy question and why it's before us. And the second question is, well, why is this density? What changed from 2019 till now? Yeah, some stuff happened to the province, but there was a really big OPA that council did with respect to avenues, and it said 2 things. It said that avenues are mid-rise. Well, we can check the box on that. That's what these are. And it also said that we may consider additional forms near a public transit station, but it goes on to talk about, you know, it steps down from the transit station. This is midpoint between 2 transit stations. It's about as far away along Eglinton as you can be from transit stations. So how does that fit? Well, it's hard to make an objective decision on that, and we've considered stuff like Lakeshore and Browns Line, where people were putting large buildings using that clause. Well, this is a really important decision of council, and it's hard for us to make that decision without all of those pieces of information, including if the site is going to get broken up. My goodness, the background on this is that staff put together the site to try to make a comprehensive development, to try to make it work as one piece, and the city sold a parcel of land, and now it's being handled in pieces, the complete opposite of the intent. So I think there's some important questions. I hope you'll support my deferral because, you know, I don't know that's what the community has asked for, but I think there's room for improvement, and I'd like to see that. I'm willing to help as much as I can. I'm willing to bring the community together to find a path, knowing that the developer is probably in a difficult spot. But this is clearly a strong message from the community who feel overwhelmed by a process that just does not seem to be serving what they've asked for and reflect all of the work that they did. So that's my motion. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take them. Members, only members of council can ask questions. Councillor Nunziata, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So Councillor Holiday is moving deferral, which I will support. But what concerns me though is we talked about the appeal process. Now, I know from experience in my ward that when some of these development applications, and especially at Eglinton and Western Road, Eglinton and Black Creek, where they're going 40, 50 stories, they've been appealed, and what happens at the end of the day, the community doesn't receive any additional benefits, and they just approve it, and the community gets nothing, and that's why I think that if you try to negotiate with the community and with the applicant before it reaches that point, you might get some additional benefits, and that's why I asked that question, and I hope Councillor Holiday will do that with his community. And Councillor Holiday, I know you want a hockey arena. Maybe you can get a hockey arena from that. But I know he's been advocating for that.
We'll let that go.
That's what I'm doing in my ward. They want additional density. I get more money, so we can, you know, have a second pad. So, Councillor Holiday, you should do that because you debated this at council the last day. But you know, if you're going to get additional density, I think you should be able to get additional benefits as well from the community. Because what I don't want is that if they go to the hearing and they get approved, sometimes I've had developers actually get more than what they actually asked for at the tribunal. And so there's no benefits to the community. So that's why I try to work with developers and my community on really getting what we need in the community before it reaches that stage. Like I got a theater coming into Weston. I have a lot of projects happening in Weston with all the development applications at Eglinton and Western Road, where there's going to be a stop, the Eglinton line. And I must say, I heard that the Eglinton line in my ward is going to open at the end of December. So that's good news. That's good news.
Miracles happen.
I have 7 towers going up at Eglinton and Black Creek from Choice Properties, high-rise towers at Eglinton and Weston Road. So all of Eglinton Avenue, my ward, it's all these towers. We have all the stops and that. But I was able to work with the community, and we're able to get some benefits out of it, improvements for the community, which I think is very important. So, Councillor Holiday, I hope that you will work with your community and the applicant to see if you can get additional benefits for your community and address the concerns that your residents have.
Thank you. And yes, Etobicoke is very envious of new ice going in.
Well, then negotiate that with the applicant.
All right. Any other speakers? Okay, so on the, Madam Clerk, you help me on the amendment. All those in favor? It is, yeah, the amendment is a deferral. And that is, it reads to adjourn the public meeting, but it is a deferral. All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. And that is complete on that item. Members, there's one other item left. I've lost track of the number, but it is EY 27.18, which is Vanhill Avenue parking restrictions. This was a new item of business from Councillor Perruzza. Would you like to move this, sir? Councillor Perruzza moves EY 2718 Vanhill Avenue parking restrictions. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Madam Clerk, I'm going to confirm, other than the bylaws, that we have completed all the items of business. I see a yes. May I have a volunteer to read motion number 1? Deputy Mayor Morley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to move that bills 1372 to 1376 prepared for the November 26, 2025 meeting 27 of the Etobicoke York Community Council be declared as bylaws and passed subject to section 226.9 the City of Toronto Act 2006.
All those in favor? Any opposed? That carries. And I believe, is there one more, Madam Clerk? Motion 2. Do we have a volunteer on that?
Happy to do the
Deputy Mayor Morley.
confirmatory bills. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That confirmatory bills to confirm the legislative proceedings of the Etobicoke York Community Council acting under delegated authority at meeting 29, November 26, 2025, be declared as bylaws and passed subject to section 226.9 of the City of Toronto Act 2006.
All those in favor? Any opposed? That item carries. Madam Clerk, confirming that is all the items. Therefore, Community Council is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.